listening to Reality Wrap. I'm your host, Melanie. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hey guys, hope you guys are all doing awesome today. Today I'm going to be recapping last night's episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 5, Episode 12. We have a seating chart for the reunion. It just came out today. I think it came out today. I saw it this morning, so I'm assuming it just came out today. And I have to say, I'm a little surprised at where they put everybody. So we have obviously Andy in the middle, and then next to Andy on both sides, we have Angie and Lisa. I'm not surprised about Lisa, but Angie, I was a little surprised with. I'm actually surprised that they didn't put Bronwyn next to Andy because realistically, she is the one who's really involved in all of the stuff that's going on this season. I have to say, she is way messier than I initially thought she was. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm living for it, but I'm like, oh wow, you are not the person I thought when you first came on. She had me a little fooled, but these last couple of episodes, I will say, she is showing her messiness. I keep flip-flopping between, oh my God, I'm living for her, to now these last couple of episodes feeling like, okay, Bronwyn, you're doing too much. You're getting a little too messy and involved in everybody's drama. And you keep throwing everybody under the bus. But then part of me kind of likes it. So I think she's a great addition. So next to Angie and Lisa, then we have Mary and Heather. Heather surprised me because I don't feel like, or at least as of yet, there's not a whole lot involving her in this season other than her just being kind of in the middle of everybody's drama. So I'm really surprised they put her in the second seat. Mary, I get because she has provided so much entertainment this season. And then after last week's episode where she shared what was going on with her son, Robert, I feel like she deserves the second seat there. Then we have Bronwyn and Meredith in seats 3 on each side. Meredith really, to me, should be in one of the last seats because I don't really feel like she brought a whole lot so far. So I'm a little surprised at that. And then Bronwyn, like I said, I'm surprised is that far down as a number 3. I think she should be either number 1 or number 2. Maybe they didn't want to put her so close to Andy because she's new and they didn't want to offend any of the cast members that have been on, multiple seasons. Maybe that's why she's so far down. I don't know. And then in the seats number 4, we have Whitney and Brittany. Again, Whitney, while I cannot stand her, I think should be farther up in the seat rankings than Heather. I think she was a little bit more involved with her whole fight with Lisa. So I'm really surprised that she's at the end. And same with Brittany. Brittany should definitely be ahead of Meredith because even though Brittany is a complete mess, I feel like she shared a lot more this season on what's going on in her life than Meredith has. If it were up to me, I think I would do Andy, and then on one side, I would have Angie, Mary, Whitney, and Meredith. And then on the other side, I would have Lisa, Bronwyn, Brittany, and Heather. Because honestly, I don't think Meredith or Heather really has brought much story to this season. And actually, I feel like Heather should thank Bronwyn for giving her something to talk about this season, because if it wasn't for Bronwyn, she wouldn't have anything. So this episode revolves all around the day of Meredith's bat mitzvah. All of Meredith's family has come in, and apparently Meredith has an older son, which I didn't know about. Did we know about this? Because I was like, wait a minute. I had no idea she had an older son, and I thought Brooks was her only son. And speaking of Brooks, I love how irritated he was when he told Seth that he needed to put on a black yarmulke, and he was like, yeah, no, I'm going to wear this pink one. The look of irritation on his face was priceless. Heather arrives and she is back on the espresso martini train. As we all recall, her last visit with the espresso martini, she appeared to pee-pee her pants while she was throwing up in a bag in a van. So I guess she felt that there was enough time between that and now. So she's like, okay, I'm drinking my espresso martinis again. Whitney is mad at Bronwyn still for spilling the beans about what Whitney had said to Heather being friends with Lisa, which, let's be fair, Lisa did prompt Bronwyn to tell Heather when they were at camp day, but obviously she had told Lisa about it before, because otherwise Lisa wouldn't have told her to tell everybody what she had said. I knew since the beginning of this season that Whitney was going to have a problem with Heather being so ride or die for Lisa. Heather claims it's cool that she already knew about Whitney's feelings, but I really wonder if there's an underlying issue bubbling under the surface. Whitney and Lisa really do not like each other. So the fact that now that Whitney and Heather are getting along again, which I kind of think that might be more for the camera or for the season and not real in real life. But I definitely think that deep down inside, Whitney is pissed off at Heather for being so close with Lisa this season. All of the ladies are standing around mingling. Lisa takes a jab at Brittany for putting jewels on her manicure and calls it the bridge and tunnel. Oh, I laughed. Bronwyn tells us that she is not in a good place with Whitney or Angie since Whitney accused her of lying and Angie told her to shut the F up because it had nothing to do with her. Someone asks where Mary is. I think it was Brittany, and if she's coming. And we get a flashback of Angie over at Mary's house. Angie asks her if she's going to go to Meredith's bat mitzvah. And Mary's like, I don't know because I have a lot going on with my family. I feel so bad for Mary. She really did seem blindsided by what Robert told her last episode, and she was on Watch What Happens Live last night, and she said that when she had gone into his room, that was a pure, authentic conversation. She had no idea that he was about to tell her all of that. Her reaction that we saw on the TV, that was like her in a raw moment. Andy also asked her if Robert had gone to rehab, and she said he did. He went for a month and he came out a totally different person and that he's doing really, really well. And then he also asked about Robert Jr.'s wife, girlfriend. I'm still not clear as to what she is. And she said she also went to rehab and is still in rehab. So I don't know if maybe she was worse off than Robert Jr. or what. But yeah, I guess she's still in rehab. I'm so glad that both of them went and got help. We see Bronwyn talking to Brittany and Melee, and she's telling them that she has been beefing with everybody. So everybody has been talking about everyone else to her. Brittany tells them that she is mad at Angie for calling her a slut. And I'm like, okay, Brittany, she didn't call you a slut. She said that you were dating 3 guys, which you yourself said you were dating multiple guys and you were all over the dating apps. So I have to ask, where's the lie? Brittany convinces herself that if Angie is accusing her of being a slut, that it's probably because Angie is projecting that that is the way she is with Sean. And when she said this, I'm like, that doesn't even really make sense because Sean and Angie have been married for like 30 years. So is she implying that Angie's stepping out on Sean and being a slut, or she's being a slut with Sean? It didn't quite make sense to me, but Brittany doesn't make sense to me. So really. We see all of Meredith's family, including her mother. Lisa tells Meredith's mother that they found out that John's biological father was Jewish and his mom was some blonde lady from Arizona. If you all recall, John was adopted. So I'm guessing that is why he is Mormon. His adopted family must have been Mormon, and that's how he got into the Mormon church. Meredith finally arrives on a horse-drawn sleigh. It was cute. She says hello to everybody, including Angie. They go inside and they start the ceremony. During the ceremony, Mary arrives late and she can't figure out where the door is. She's walking around. She's like, oh, there's black stuff all over the doors. I think she means that window tinting. And so she's walking around and she's looking in the windows. And if anybody's ever tried to look in through the windows with window tinting, it is super hard to see inside. And at one point, she's looking through the window that is right behind the podium where Meredith is standing and doing her prayers. It was totally rude, but it was also very merry. So I'm like, you know what? It was funny. I'm kind of surprised that one of the cameramen didn't tell her where to go because, it was a religious ceremony. It was kind of rude that she was coming in so late. And not only coming in late, she was peeking through the windows and everybody could see her. You would think that somebody from the crew would be like, hey, here's the door right here. But maybe they couldn't see through the windows either. So that's why they couldn't tell her. I don't know. Mary tells us that she decided to come because religion is important to her. And even though she and Meredith aren't on good terms, she felt it was important for her to be there for Meredith. After the ceremony's over, they all go out and they're mingling. Angie is talking to Lisa and she's telling her that she needs to talk to Bronwyn because she feels like Bronwyn is upset. And Lisa agrees. She's like, yeah, I think she's upset too. Angie tells Lisa that she doesn't want what's going on between her and Bronwyn to get in between her and Lisa. And Lisa agrees and she's like, I really miss talking to you. And Angie's like, yeah, I miss talking to you too. I hope that this truce between the two of them sticks because it does really seem like they were really close friends considering they used to spend hours and hours and hours on the phone together. And I also think that if these two get close again, it's going to bug Heather. And honestly, I love all things that bug Heather. Shh, did I say that? Angie asks Bronwyn if they can talk, so they go off to a table. Angie tells Bronwyn that the first step is a compliment, and she compliments what Bronwyn's wearing and telling her that she looks beautiful. Bronwyn's like, and is step 2 an apology? And Angie's like, do I owe you an apology? Because I feel like you owe me an apology for twisting what I said. And I was like, oh gosh, here we go. Bronwyn tells her, well, you were out of line for telling me to shut the F up. And if you don't apologize to me, then there's nothing to talk about. Now, I like Bronwyn, but this constant demanding of an apology from everybody is getting a little old. Yes, Angie was inappropriate by telling her to shut the F up. But at the same time, I'm like, there are worse things she could have said to you. She was essentially telling you to stay out of it. And not that I'm going to take Angie's side, but Bronwyn, you kind of have been going in between everybody and stirring the pot. So I kind of get where Angie's coming from. But I do think that Angie and Whitney twisted what Bronwyn said when they were on that walk. Anyway, Angie does give her a half-hearted apology, and Bronwyn wants no part of it. Angie accuses her of getting in between her and Whitney and Lisa, and she also accuses her of inserting herself into Brittany's relationship. Bronwyn does make a good point. Angie was the one that said Brittany was dating a bunch of guys. So I don't really know why she was saying that Bronwyn was the one who was getting involved in Brittany's relationship. These two at this point are yelling back and forth, and everybody around them is kind of looking at them. It was pretty loud, and it was pretty inappropriate to do at a bat mitzvah. I was like, oh my gosh, I would be horrified. Todd decides that he needs to go over and police his daughter, Bronwyn, and he comes over and he tells Bronwyn that it's time for another drink.
Here comes your better half. Your much better half. I think it's time for another drink. Calm. Time to take a break. Would you like another glass of wine? You don't need to bring somebody who calls me a liar a drink. I know, baby. Okay. Yeah. Todd is being nice. You can't dare to look me in the face and apologize to me. I said I'm sorry. I told you to shut the up. You have spoken about. I'm sorry. I told you to shut the up. Apology to Todd. Go for it. I haven't heard a single one out of you that was worthwhile. Todd, you're the best. We're giving me a chance. I know, but it's like, but all she hears is you telling her that it's fine, That's not what I was saying. Excuse me. Okay, I'll give you a minute. You're being very nice. I appreciate you being respectful of other women. All they hear is you are respectful for them. And that is not what I was trying to do. I know. I'm gonna leave.
You guys, I know I have said this every episode, and I'm going to say this every episode. These two are done. Granted, Angie and Bronwyn were getting loud and they were making a scene, but coming and telling her that it's time for another drink was pretty degrading. You didn't see Sean doing that to Angie, and we have all seen Todd shut Bronwyn down so many times this season. I will say one difference in this Todd shutdown was that Bronwyn actually seemed to push back. When she said, I can't believe you offered to get her a drink when she just called me a liar. Also when they were at the bar and he tells her that he's leaving and we see him walk off. So I'm assuming he left and she stayed, because I don't think we see him again this episode. Obviously, we see her. So if he left and she stayed, I'm sure there was a fight when they got home. Whitney goes up to Heather and tells her they need to discuss what Bronwyn had said at camp day. And Heather tells her, it's cool. I've had 10 espresso martinis. I'm kidding. She doesn't say that. But in her talking head, she does say that it's okay because what Whitney told Bronwyn wasn't anything that Whitney hasn't said to her before. And I also feel like Heather is going to play it cool because she can't let it seem like Bronwyn got to her. Lisa comes over and interrupts Whitney, and Whitney gets pissed and tells her to stop interrupting her. Lisa gets offended. She's like, how dare you talk to me like that? Which I have to give it to Whitney, and I hate giving it to Whitney because she drives me crazy. But Whitney and Heather were having a conversation, and Lisa 100% came in and interrupted. Whitney tells Heather that Bronwyn is spinning things. Lisa tells her, you're lying, Whitney. Let's get Bronwyn over here to settle this. Whitney calls Bronwyn over, who's kikiing with Brittany, her 5-minute friend. So she comes over, and Whitney asks Angie, did we say anything bad about Heather? And Angie does admit that they did say stuff about Heather, but she feels like Bronwyn twisted it, and that Bronwyn says that Angie is mean and says mean things. And for whatever reason, Brittany has come over and she's holding on to Bronwyn's arm because they're now best buds. And she tells Angie that Angie does say things to be dramatic, which is so rich coming from Brittany, considering she is the queen of me moments. Angie tells Brittany, oh girl, I have been so nice to you. And Brittany's like, yeah, you called me a slut. Angie's like, I don't even use that word. And Brittany's like, you said I slept with 10 guys. Angie corrects her and says, I said 3 guys, which is what we all heard come out of her mouth. Bronwyn has had enough of this 5-minute friend and decides that Brittany's 5 minutes is up. So she takes her 5-minute friend and chucks her right under the bus.
I'll be messy on your behalf. Brittany told me earlier she thinks you called her a slut because you were one. Wait, what? Ordinarily, I would be happy to see Angie getting in trouble after she's with me, but I'm tired of Brittany's little shtick of running her mouth and then being like, poor me, I'm such a victim. Someone called me a slut. Someone bought me wine. Like, I can't deal with it anymore. You're gonna call Angie a slut outside.
I really think that if she's accusing me of that, then that's probably because that's what she's doing with Sean.
Child. Oh. Okay. Then call Angie a slut inside.
Wow, Bethany, wow. Bronwyn is messy. She really does fit into this group, much to Todd's dismay. He thought he was just marrying this quirky girl, but really, he married a messy ass chick, because when she did this to Brittany, I was like, oh, wow. But you know what? It made me laugh. At this point, Angie's like, girl, I'm gonna line you up like a football and kick your ass through the goalpost. Because she tells Brittany that her hair looks like she has a high body count. That she has high body count hair, high body count dress, and high body count shoes. And I was like, wow, she read Brittany for filth. I did do an Instagram poll today, and if you want to participate in that, you can go to my Instagram account, Reality Rap Podcast. And I asked, do you think Angie was too hard on Brittany? And your options were 100% bully behavior, no, it was amazing, or she low-key deserved it. So 14% said it was 100% bully behavior, 71% said no, it was amazing, and 14% said she low-key deserved it, which is where I land. I think Brittany low-key deserved it. It was definitely harsh, but oh my God, Angie delivered those lines so well. And I just have to applaud her. Brittany walks off and goes up to Whitney and Melee, and she tells them that Angie just called her hair slutty. Angie, from across the table, corrects her and says, it's a boompa, and then tells Melee that her hair is kind of a boompa too. I always thought that those types of hairstyle where you kind of have the bump in the back was called a bumpet, but Angie pronounces it as a boompa. So she's the hairdresser. I guess she would know. So Brittany walks off crying and she goes behind some curtains, and we hear Brooks and Chloe on the microphone asking her what is wrong, and she tells them what Angie said to her, and Brooks says the sweetest things. He's like, oh, that's so mean. You look so beautiful. And Chloe goes and she tells her mom, Meredith, what happened. So she comes over and she asks Brittany if she's okay. And at this point now Lisa's coming over and she calls Angie over to apologize to Brittany, which she does. But she also tells Brittany, you know, you did call me slutty. And Brittany denies this. And Melee's like, no, you did. And this is why I kind of feel like Brittany deserved the whole thing. She's just messy. And I feel like a lot of the things she does so she gets attention. And now she's denying calling Angie slutty. She misrepresented Angie saying that she was dating 3 guys, because she did say that. She said she was all over the dating apps. She turned it around and said, oh, she said I was sleeping with 10 guys and all this. Angie did not say that. And that is why I kind of don't care that Angie said this to her. Because I find her totally annoying. At the same time, though, I loved watching it. And I think I'm going to change my tune. I know at the beginning of this season, I was like, Brittany can go. But now I think Brittany can stay because I kind of like watching her ridiculousness. At this point, Meredith totally loses it. And she tells Angie to leave. And while this is happening, we hear Lisa whisper to Brittany that she does need Keratis Thermatique, which is like this stuff you put on your hair to protect it when you're blow drying it or curling it. And the fact that she thought that was important to tell her when all this craziness is going on with Meredith kicking Angie out, she's like, oh, by the way, oh my gosh, it was so on brand for Lisa. Angie and Meredith are kind of arguing back and forth. And at this point, Meredith calls over her security and tells him to take Angie out. And what I really want to know is, why did Meredith have security there in the first place? Are bat mitzvahs known to get out of hand? Was she expecting something to go down? And the poor security guy, the look on his face, you could tell he was just like, oh my God, I thought this was going to be an easy gig. I'm just going to stand around at a bat mitzvah and make sure nothing goes down. I don't think I'm going to have to do anything. And now he has to kick this woman and her husband out, and Meredith's making this giant scene. You know, he was like, oh, I just want to collect my paycheck. Meredith tells us that she's sick of Angie being nasty and mean to everybody, and that she doesn't like women degrading other women. You know, like when Lisa called her a whore who half of New York. I had to kind of laugh that here she is throwing Angie out of her party when she got so upset for Mary doing the same thing and telling her to leave if she wouldn't stop yelling. I was like, oh, how things have come full circle. Angie and Sean walk out into the hallway with Meredith's security. Lisa and Mary go out to talk to her. Lisa tells us in her talking head that Angie doesn't seem to see her part in all of this, and that sometimes Angie says things that are hurtful. Lisa is right. Angie was saying some pretty nasty stuff, but honestly, sometimes I'm like, you know what? They kind of deserved it. I definitely don't feel like what she said warranted her being kicked out of Meredith's bat mitzvah, but Meredith thought otherwise, and she even had security there. So she knew something was going to go down. Maybe she was just waiting for the chance to kick her out. I don't know. Angie tells Lisa that she is so embarrassed that Meredith asked her to come and then kicked her out. At this point, everybody's dispersing. Lisa is talking to Meredith, and she says that she can't wait for Puerto Vallarta. And then we get a rewind of Lisa telling John that she is planning this trip for all the ladies because she knows how to do it upright. And of course, this was all way before everybody hated each other. And honestly, sometimes those are the best vacations, when they're all coming into a vacation mad at each other. They end up being the best ones. Next week, they're off to Puerto Vallarta, and it looks like it turns into a total shit show. And I can't wait. All right, guys, that's all I have for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.